Well, hello, David Taylor of Mr Pelargonium, and I'm back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Now, today I thought we'd have a little bit of a sort of midwinter summary of where we are and what we've been up to. So let's just get straight into it. Well, hello there, and first and foremost, a very, very happy new year to everybody. Filming this on Saturday, the 6th of January. So we're getting through into the first week of January now, and it's that midwinter period. Now, in the UK, the weather has been probably, well, record-breaking in terms of amounts of rain that we've had. If you're overseas, you may have even sort of glimpsed a bit of it on your local news channels. We have had phenomenal amounts of rain all through the Christmas period and just into the new year now. Floods everywhere. We've actually got local floods near to us where we are. One or two of the roads are virtually impassable. It's really been bad in the UK. I would think we've had probably one of the wettest 3-month periods that I've ever known during the winter. October, November and December have all been shockingly wet. The one very minor benefit of it all, of course, is that I've not had to have my heating on hardly at all this winter and autumn and winter so far. We had a little cold snap end of November just into December for about 6 days in southern England. It was a bit longer further north, but other than that, the weather has been very mild, generally almost warm in some periods, but it has been exceptionally wet. I've got lots of damp in this glass house, as anybody who follows the channel will know. And it's been a little bit of a struggle with one or two of the plants. Now, I have had one or two issues. We've had storms blowing through. I've had the windows open on drier days. And one of the storms blew through and actually blew one of my hanging pots off, crashing down into a couple of my standards here. And I've done a video about that on my own channel. I think it's more appropriate to put it on there, to be quite honest. So if you want to have a look at that, I'll put a link up to that now. But it's been a real struggle in a very, very damp winter. So I thought for this video, I would actually just take stock, look at one or two of the projects that we have been looking at, just see where we are with them. Now, I have stopped, as I said in my last video, I think I was going to be stopping all of my regals ready for the show, and I have now completed that task, albeit a bit later. I only finished it this week, to be quite honest. So one or two of them may be a little bit late, but you never know. It always depends, of course, on what the weather's going to be like over the springtime. But we realistically are only now, believe it or not, only around about a month away from needing to stop our zonals for the show season, which, as I say, in the UK is usually in June. A lot of Pelargonium shows are now combined with other plants, which means that the shows are sometimes held later in the season. So you just need to stagger your times back a little bit if you're in a show that's later in the summer. So that's just something that you'll need to keep in mind. Now, the damp weather has, of course, caused one or two sort of casualties. I'll put in a little bit of footage now. I've had a couple of plants. I think the first one I'll show here is a really big plant of Babylon, which looked absolutely stunning during the summer. I cut it back hard, but for whatever reason, it didn't pull through very well. I have watered it, and realistically, I think the main problem is the fact that I probably just overwatered it, to be quite honest. I've got another plant here, which I'll show now. This is my Fair Ellen, and that's actually not done very well either, to be quite honest. That's looking pretty sick. Again, almost certainly down to overwatering. I generally like to keep my plants very dry during the winter period, almost to the point that they do sort of begin to sort of droop slightly, but that's not a problem. I then give them a little bit of water. Obviously, these big plants are in clay pots, so they can only realistically be watered from the top. But I've done my best to keep them going. I may hold on to them just to see if they recover, but I'm not very hopeful, to be honest. But realistically, they are probably one of the only ones that I've really had big problems with. I've lost one or two zonals, as I always do every winter, primarily because of the damp. They just begin to rot back, get a little smidge, a little tiny bit of a burnt leaf that will drop down onto the stem and it will rot the stem, and once that starts it can be very difficult to salvage them. The regals of course continue to grow. I grow a lot of regals. They're quite happy, and the key thing of course is just ensuring that you're keeping the dead and dying leaves, the yellowing leaves, of which there is one there, which I will just take off. Quite easily done, just take them off the plant. Now another thing actually to look out for are pests that are sort of taking advantage of your frost-free glasshouse. If you've got plants, whatever the plants you may grow in a frost-free glasshouse, the pests will, may find a way in, and they will like the conditions that your frost-free temperatures are actually giving them. They will love that. And I've had a big caterpillar on this plant. Again, I've got a bit of footage that I've taken of this spotted shrimp here. It was given a name now by the breeder, Mr Pollard. I've had a really big caterpillar on this. Do you know what? I've looked everywhere. I've looked under it. I've looked through the stems, and I really cannot find it. I mean, there is a chance, almost certainly this is almost a full-grown larvae or caterpillar now, and I wonder whether it has gone down to pupate somewhere. They vary in where they pupate. A number of them burrow down into the compost to pupate, but I think it may have pupated because I can't see any cut foliage now on this. So, as I say, it may have sort of completed its sort of life cycle to the next stage. But it's something to keep an eye on. You will get pests that really take advantage of your frost-free greenhouse. So keep your eye out for any gnarling or cutting of the leaves that you may see, and have a look around your plant just to see if there may be, things like caterpillars that are taking advantage of your frost-free conditions. Right, now you may have noticed here I brought over our test plant. I thought I'd show you this because this is actually really doing quite well. I've kept it really minimally watered during the winter. I haven't been watering it very often. One or two little dying leaves that I'm just sort of taking off. Really now, once a little minor tidy up, which I've actually done then, all this will need going forward will be the stopping in about a month's time. It's grown fairly well, it's grown fairly evenly. You can see it's nicely rounded. We have got a bloom on there which I will leave for the time being, but they really do not need watering very often. I give a little dribble in the bottom of the saucer, feeded water I should say. This is full strength feed, but they're only getting it maybe once a fortnight, maybe 10 days. And there we are, the stipules as well. Try and keep them well controlled. But there's not really a lot to sort of report on it. It's quite clean. It's staying really quite strongly growing actually. Now we did repot this back in August. So, it's in relatively fresh compost. That compost will almost certainly now be filled with root, and I can see that it is at the base. We got roots breaking out that base now. So, that's ready for the stop. I'll do a specific video of that, giving it a stop in about a month's time, the early sort of part of February. And we'll hopefully be able to get that in the show this coming summer. Now, the only other thing I suppose I can mention is that you can continue, if you, enjoy growing standard grown plants like I do, you can continue just to nip out the side shoots because that's not going to cause the plant too much harm. Ensure, same old story, ensure they're on the dry side. And it's just a question then of getting the knife. That's nice and dry, so we might as well do this one together now. Just clean the knife. And this is a plant called Charity, and I'm interested in growing a standard of it. I've actually got a couple of others. I think it's a really nice plant because it's got these lovely bicolour green leaves. And it provides a great deal of interest. The bloom is fairly insignificant, like a lot of the sort of scented type plants, but the leaf really does make up for it. And I think this will look really good as a standard. Now we've got a bit of sun breaking through now. The weather, thankfully, is changing in the UK. It's turning much colder now. And the rain has supposedly stopped and gone for a little while. So I'm hopeful that we're going to get a nice, cool, dry spell of weather. And I can get the glass house open. It's going to be above freezing during the day, so I can get the glass house open and give a good airing to the plants, which is what we desperately need. There we are, it's just a question of sort of just going down and clipping them off. It's not difficult. And that's it, if you want to grow a plant straight up, just taking those side shoots out, it's really as simple as that. It's best to get them young to encourage them to grow up. And that more or less covers the bases for both the zonal and the scented and the regal types. So there we are. I thought I'd just do a little bit of a summary video to sort of explain what's been going on. It's just important to, particularly now we're going into a very cold period. So, just very little water, only when they're sort of more or less bone dry or they begin to just droop down. Just give them a little bit. I only need a couple of millimeters in the bottom of the saucer. And that will just boost them up again and enable them to grow on. So there we are. That's just about it from me today. A little bit of a summary video just to show that I am still doing plenty of things. And as I've said, I have done a couple of other bits on my own channel. So give that a little bit of a look. I'm also starting to do a few shorts on my own channel as well, which are the very short videos. Don't think it's really appropriate for this channel. I may do a few, but I'm actually struggling to keep these little videos down to less than 60 seconds. So that's a bit of a challenge for me. So we'll see how it goes with those. But yeah, give my other channel a little bit of a view. And that's just about it from me today. So I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.